help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts on the video. Your feedback helps make the contents better. Now let's get to the story.
I looked my father straight in the eye and warned him, one more word from my stepmother about my money, and there would be no more polite conversations. I would deal with her myself, clearly explaining her boundaries and why my money is not hers. Do you understand? The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. My father's face went pale, then red, then pale again. He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. Behind him, I could hear my stepmother Linda gasp from the hallway where she'd been eavesdropping. Good, let her hear every single word. But let me back up and tell you how we got here. My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a software engineer for a tech company in Seattle. I've worked hard for everything I have, putting myself through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, building my career from the ground up, and saving every penny I could. 3 years ago, I finally bought my own house, a modest 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, all mine. Or at least it was supposed to be. My mother died when I was 15. Cancer took her in less than a year, and it destroyed my father. For 5 years, he was a shell of himself, going through the motions of life, but not really living. I understood. I grieved, too. But eventually, I moved forward, because that's what Mom would have wanted. 2 years ago, my father met Linda at some cooking class he'd reluctantly joined at my insistence. She was 52, divorced twice, with a daughter named Bethany who was 25. At first, I was happy for Dad. He smiled again. He laughed. He seemed alive. They got married 6 months later. Too fast, I thought, but what could I say? He was a grown man, and he deserved happiness. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these stories matter. The problem started small. Linda would make comments about my house whenever they visited. "This kitchen could use updating," she'd say, running her finger along my perfectly clean countertop. "These cabinets are so outdated. Don't you make good money, Marcus?" Or she'd comment on my car, my clothes, my furniture, always with this tone that suggested I was somehow failing at life, despite being completely self-sufficient and debt-free at 28. I ignored it. She was new to the family, and maybe she was just trying to be helpful in her own misguided way. My father seemed happy, and that's what mattered. Then Bethany moved in with them. She'd been fired for her 3rd job in 2 years, this time from a retail store for, according to Linda, standing up for herself against an abusive manager. I later found out she'd been caught on her phone constantly and got mouthy when her boss called her out on it. Linda spun it as workplace harassment. Bethany was unemployed, broke, and apparently unable to function as an adult. At 25, she'd never held a job for more than 8 months. "It's temporary," Linda assured my father, "just until she gets back on her feet." That was 14 months ago. During Sunday dinners at their place, which I attended out of obligation and love for my father, I started noticing things. Linda would brag about purchases, a new designer purse, expensive shoes, premium wine. Then she'd complain about money. "We're stretched so thin," she'd sigh dramatically. "Your father's retirement isn't what we hoped, and with Bethany here, expenses have gone up." My father would look uncomfortable. He'd worked as an accountant his whole life and had a decent pension, plus Social Security. He'd also sold the family home after marrying Linda and moved into her place, and I knew for a fact he'd put a significant amount from that sale into their joint account. They should have been comfortable. But Linda had expensive tastes and a daughter who contributed absolutely nothing. The real turning point came 3 months ago. I was at their house for Sunday dinner when Linda brought it up. We were having dessert, some elaborate cake she'd bought from an expensive bakery, when she suddenly got this sweet, manipulative smile on her face. "Marcus, honey, I've been thinking," she began, and alarm bells immediately went off in my head. "You have that big house all to yourself, 3 bedrooms, and you only use one. It seems like such a waste." I set down my fork. "It's not a waste. It's my home." Of course," she said quickly. "I just thought, well, Bethany could really use her own space. She's been cramped in the guest room here for over a year. If she could stay with you, just temporarily, it would give her the independence she needs to really get her life together. You'd be helping family." I stared at her, then at Bethany, who was looking at her phone, completely uninterested in the conversation about her own living situation, then at my father, who was suddenly very focused on his cake. "No," I said simply. Linda's smile tightened. "No? Just like that? You won't even consider it?" "There's nothing to consider. I live alone, I like living alone, I worked hard to afford my own place, and I'm not turning it into a halfway house for someone who's perfectly capable of supporting themselves, but chooses not to."
Bethany looked up at that. "Excuse me? I'm right here." "Yes, you are. You're also 25, unemployed, and living off your mother and my father. Maybe focus less on being offended and more on job applications." "Marcus!" Linda stood up, her face flushed. "That is incredibly rude. Bethany has been going through a difficult time." "For 14 months?" "You don't understand what it's like out there right now. The job market is terrible. She's trying." I looked at Bethany, who'd already gone back to scrolling on her phone. "Doesn't look like she's trying very hard right now." My father finally spoke up. "Marcus, that's enough. Linda, maybe this isn't the right time." "No, Jim, it's exactly the right time," Linda snapped at my father. "Your son needs to understand what family means. We help each other. We support each other. But apparently, Marcus is too selfish to understand that." I stood up, keeping my voice calm. "I understand family just fine. I also understand boundaries, personal responsibility, and not enabling destructive behavior. The answer is no. Bethany is not moving into my house." I left that night with Linda's angry words following me out the door. That should have been the end of it, but Linda was just getting started. Over the next few weeks, my father called me multiple times. The conversations always started the same way: small talk, asking about work, pretending everything was normal. Then he'd ease into it. "You know, son, I've been thinking about what Linda suggested. Maybe just for a couple of months, just to give Bethany a fresh start in a new environment." "Dad, no." "Linda thinks she might have better job opportunities in your area." "Dad, I said no. Please stop asking." "She's family now, Marcus. Her daughter is like your sister." That one stung. "I had a mother. She died. Linda is your wife, and I respect that. But Bethany is not my sister, and Linda is not my mother. They're not entitled to my home or my money." He'd go quiet then, and I could practically hear Linda in the background coaching him what to say next. The calls continued, at least twice a week. Sometimes it was my father. Sometimes Linda would grab the phone. She tried different tactics: guilt, manipulation, anger, fake sweetness. Once she even cried, claiming I was driving a wedge in the family and breaking my father's heart. "You have so much, Marcus. You have this house, this good job, all this money. We're not asking for much. Just a room, just some help. Why are you being so cruel?" "Because it's not about helping," I said clearly. "It's about you and Bethany taking advantage. The answer is no, Linda. It will always be no. Stop asking." She hung up on me. Then came the messages. Text after text from Linda, sometimes late at night.
long paragraphs about family obligations, about how disappointed my mother would be in me, about how I'd changed and become heartless. She sent me articles about the housing crisis and unemployment rates, as if that somehow made it my responsibility to house her adult daughter. I blocked her number. Then she started using my father's phone. 2 months ago, I went to their house to have a serious conversation with my father. I needed him to understand that this had to stop. Linda answered the door with a triumphant smile. "Marcus, perfect timing. Come in, come in. We have something to discuss with you." Red flag. Major red flag. But I walked in because I needed to talk to my father. They were both sitting in the living room, and there was a folder on the coffee table, an official-looking folder. "Sit down, son," my father said. He looked tired, older than I'd ever seen him. I sat, tension coiling in my stomach. Linda leaned forward, still smiling. "So, we've been doing some thinking and some research. Did you know that in Washington state there are legal provisions for family members to claim financial support from relatives in certain circumstances?" My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "Well," she continued, clearly enjoying this, "if we could prove that you have the means to help and that we have genuine financial need, we could potentially petition for a formal support arrangement, especially since your father helped support you through your teenage years after your mother died." I looked at my father. "Dad, tell me you're not serious about this." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Linda thinks—" "I don't care what Linda thinks." I stood up, my hands shaking. "Are you actually threatening to sue me, your own son, for money?" "Not sue," she said smoothly. "Just formalize a support arrangement. You have more than enough, Marcus. Your father sacrificed for you, and now it's time for you to give back." Give back? I was almost laughing now, except none of this was funny. Give back? I put myself through college. I worked full-time while taking a full course load. Dad helped with what he could, and I'm grateful, but I've been completely independent since I was 22. I don't owe you anything, either of you. "That's a disgusting attitude," Linda spat, her sweet mask finally slipping. "Your father is struggling, and you sit in your nice house with your fancy job and do nothing."
Dad isn't struggling. You are. Because you spend money you don't have on things you don't need, and you're supporting a 25-year-old woman who refuses to work. That's not my problem. "Marcus," my father tried to interject. "No, Dad, no. I'm done. I'm done with the phone calls, the manipulation, the guilt trips, and now threats of legal action. You want to know why I won't help? This is why. Because it's never enough. If I let Bethany move in, next it would be Linda asking for money for this or that. Then it would be expecting me to support all of you. Where does it end?" Linda stood up, her face red. "You're a selfish, ungrateful brat. Your mother would be ashamed of you." That was it. That was the line. "Don't you ever," I said, my voice dropping to something dangerous, "mention my mother again. You didn't know her. You don't get to use her memory as a weapon against me." I turned to my father. "Dad, I love you, but if you don't get control of your wife and her ridiculous demands, we're going to have a serious problem. I will not be manipulated, threatened, or guilted into funding Linda and Bethany's lifestyle. If you try to pursue any legal action, I will fight it with everything I have, and I will win. And then we'll really see what our relationship looks like." I walked out. Linda screamed something after me about how I'd regret this, but I didn't stop. For 3 weeks, I didn't hear from them. Blessed silence. I thought maybe, finally, they'd gotten the message. Then, my father had a minor heart attack. I got the call from a nurse at the hospital. He was stable, not in danger, but he'd had an episode, and they were keeping him for observation. I dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. Linda was already there, playing the devoted wife. When she saw me, her expression shifted to something calculating. "Oh, Marcus," she said, grabbing my arm. "Thank God you're here. Your father was so stressed. The doctor said stress was a major factor. He's been so worried about money, about our situation." I pulled my arm away. "Where is he?" She led me to his room. Dad looked small in the hospital bed, IVs in his arm, monitors beeping. But he was awake and alert. "Hey, Dad," I said, pulling up a chair. "You scared me." "Sorry, son. Didn't mean to." We talked for a while, just us. Linda hovered outside, occasionally peeking in. The doctor came by and confirmed it was a mild cardiac event, likely stress-related, but Dad needed to take it easy, watch his diet, and reduce stress. "What's been stressing you out, Dad?" I asked, once we were alone again. He sighed. She's very worried about money, about Bethany. She thinks if we don't secure Bethany's future now, she'll end up homeless or worse. She's convinced I'm failing as a father to both of you by not making you help." "Dad, that's manipulation. You know that, right?" "I know, but Marcus, she's my wife. I love her. And she's not entirely wrong that we could use help." "Dad, stop, please. I love you, but I can't keep having this conversation. Linda's financial stress is self-inflicted. If she stopped spending money on designer things and Bethany got a job, any job, you'd be fine, more than fine." He didn't argue, which told me I was right. I stayed with him until visiting hours ended. As I was leaving, Linda cornered me in the hallway. "I hope you're happy. Your stubbornness put your father in that hospital bed." Something in me snapped. "No, Linda, your constant harassment, your manipulation, and your ridiculous demands put him there. You stress him out with your spending and then blame me for not funding your lifestyle. This ends now. You can't tell me, actually, I can, and I am. You have two choices. One, back off completely. No more calls, no more texts, no more demands, no more using my father as a messenger. Leave me alone. Two, I go to a lawyer, document everything, and if you try any legal action, I'll countersue for harassment and elder financial abuse." Her face went white. "Elder abuse? How dare you? How much of Dad's money from the house sale is left, Linda? How much have you spent in 2 years?" She couldn't answer. "That's what I thought. Leave me alone, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you're doing." I walked away, hands shaking but head clear. When I wanted to watch for the viewers to subscribe and support the channel, I remembered that people needed to hear how these toxic family dynamics play out and how to stand firm against manipulation. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this need to be shared so others know they're not alone in dealing with family financial manipulation. My father recovered and went home a week later. I visited him once more without Linda present. We had an honest conversation about boundaries, about his marriage, and about my unwillingness to be used. "I understand, son," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I should have stopped this months ago." "Yeah, Dad, you should have." "Linda means well. Dad, no, she doesn't. And until you can see that clearly, we're going to have problems." He nodded sadly, and I left. Mother's Day was approaching. I hadn't planned on acknowledging it. Linda wasn't my mother, and she'd made our relationship toxic enough that I felt no obligation. But then an idea started forming, a perfectly justified, utterly satisfying idea.
Linda wanted money so badly? She wanted to be treated like family? Fine, I'd give her exactly what she deserved. I spent 2 weeks preparing. I gathered every text message, every voicemail, every email Linda had sent me over the past months, the demands, the manipulations, the guilt trips, the threats. I compiled them into a detailed document, complete with timestamps and context. Then I did some digging. I hired a private investigator, a guy I knew from college who'd gone into that line of work. I asked him to look into Linda's finances. What he found was stunning. Linda had burned through nearly 80% of my father's house sale money in less than 2 years. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, a lease on a luxury car she couldn't afford, a whole storage unit full of stuff she'd bought and never used. Bethany was even worse. She had 3 maxed-out credit cards, all in her name, but paid off periodically by Linda using my father's money. The difficult time she was going through? She'd been fired for stealing from her last employer, but Linda had smoothed it over to avoid charges being filed. This wasn't just poor financial management, this was systematic exploitation of my father. I also discovered that Linda had been telling people in their social circle that I was helping them financially. She'd been bragging about her generous stepson who made sure they wanted for nothing. Lies, all lies to keep up appearances. Armed with all this information, I crafted my Mother's Day gift. I created a beautiful card, professional quality, the kind you'd buy at an expensive stationery store. On the front, it said, "To a special woman on Mother's Day." Inside, I'd written, "Thank you for teaching me valuable lessons about boundaries, self-respect, and recognizing manipulation. Your behavior over the past year has shown me exactly the kind of person I never want to become. Here's a gift that reflects the relationship you've built with me." Attached was the full financial report, every expense, every lie, every credit card payment, a complete breakdown of how she'd spent my father's money and her attempts to get mine. I also included a separate letter to my father, documenting every conversation, every threat, and every manipulation attempt. I laid it all out clearly. This was financial elder abuse, and if it continued, I would pursue legal protection for him. But the real gift? I'd made copies, lots of copies. On Mother's Day morning, I delivered the original to their house, leaving it in the mailbox. Then I mailed copies to Linda's sister, her mother, and several of the friends she'd been lying to about me. I included a brief cover letter explaining that Linda had been misrepresenting our relationship and her financial situation, and I wanted them to know the truth. Then I waited. The phone call came within 2 hours, Linda absolutely screaming, "How dare you? How dare you invade my privacy, spread lies about me, try to turn people against me?" Everything in that report is documented and true, Linda. That's not lies, that's facts. You have no right. I have every right to defend myself against your harassment and to protect my father from financial abuse. I'm not abusing anyone. Spending someone's retirement savings without their full understanding or consent, that's abuse, Linda. And if you ever contact me again, if you ever ask me for money again, if you ever threaten legal action, I will file formal charges. Do you understand me? She was crying now, ugly, angry tears. Your father will never forgive you for this. Maybe, but at least he'll know the truth. I hung up. My father called an hour later. His voice was quiet, sad, but clearer than it had been in months. "Marcus, I got your letter." "And?" I didn't realize how much she'd spent. She told me the money was going to necessary expenses, investments for our future. I trusted her. "I know, Dad. I'm sorry." "Linda's family is calling her. Her mother is apparently furious. Linda is threatening to leave me." My heart clenched. "Dad, I'm sorry if that hurts you, but—" "No, Marcus, you were right about all of it. I was so desperate not to be alone after losing my mother that I ignored every red flag. I let Linda manipulate me. I let her try to manipulate you. I chose her comfort over your well-being, and I'm ashamed." I couldn't speak for a moment. "Dad!" "Yes, do you understand me? I'm getting a lawyer. I'm protecting what's left of my assets, and I'm telling Linda that Bethany needs to be out in 30 days, and if Linda doesn't like it, she can go too. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You were protecting me, and I was too blind to see it. Your mother would have seen through Linda in a second. I miss her every day, and I thought Linda could fill that hole, but no one can. I need to deal with that myself, not by enabling someone who's using me." Tears were running down my face now. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, son, and I'm sorry, so sorry." The fallout was spectacular. Linda's mother apparently read her the riot act about her spending and her treatment of my father. Her sister stopped speaking to her. The friends she'd been lying to confronted her, and she lost several relationships.
Bethany moved out within 2 weeks, going to live with her biological father across the state. Apparently, when faced with the choice between getting a job or moving in with her strict father who would make her work, she chose the latter. Linda stayed initially, but the marriage was essentially over. My father consulted with a divorce attorney and discovered that because of Linda's misrepresentation of finances, he had grounds for annulment or a favorable divorce settlement. He filed within a month. Linda tried to fight it, but the financial records I'd compiled made her case hopeless. She'd have to return what she could and leave my father with the majority of remaining assets. As for the Mother's Day gift itself, it became legendary in our family. My aunt, my late mother's sister, called me laughing. "Your mother would have been so proud of you, Marcus, standing up for yourself and for your dad. That was brutal and perfect." 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. My father kept the house and most of his remaining retirement funds. Linda moved in with her mother in another state. Bethany was apparently thriving under her father's stricter parenting, actually holding down a job for the first time in years. My father and I started having regular dinners again, just the two of us. He was in therapy, working through his grief over my mother and his poor choices after. He was becoming himself again, the strong, principled man who raised me. "You know," he said over dinner one night, "I never properly thanked you." "For what?" "For loving me enough to fight for me, even when I was fighting against you. You saved me, Marcus, from myself and from Linda. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe, but I might have been completely broken by then." He smiled sadly. "Your mother always said you had a spine of steel. I see her in you so much." That meant everything. The final piece of satisfaction came 6 months after Mother's Day. I got a message from Bethany, of all people. It was short. "I'm sorry for everything. You were right about all of it. Thank you for not letting me take advantage of you. It forced me to grow up. I have a real job now and my own apartment. I'm actually proud of myself for the first time in years." I didn't respond, but I saved the message. As for Linda, I heard through family channels that she was working retail, living with her mother, and had declared bankruptcy. Her expensive tastes had finally caught up with her, with no one left to fund them. Did I feel bad? Not even a little bit. She'd tried to manipulate me, use me, and abuse my father. She'd brought it all on herself. My Mother's Day gift had simply revealed the truth and protected the people who mattered. Some people might say I went too far, that families should forgive, should help each other no matter what. But those people haven't had someone systematically try to exploit them while playing the victim. They haven't watched a parent be slowly drained financially by someone pretending to love them. I protected myself and my father. I set boundaries and enforced them, and when those boundaries were continually violated, I fought back with the truth.
If that makes me the villain in Linda's story, I can live with that. Because in my story, in my father's story, I'm the one who stood firm when it mattered most. Before we end, if you found this story valuable, please subscribe. Too many people don't know how to handle family financial manipulation, and sharing these experiences helps others find the strength to stand up for themselves. And that Mother's Day gift, it sits in a frame in my father's house now. He says it reminds him that the truth might hurt, but it also heals. He looks at it and remembers that real love sometimes means tough love, and real family protects each other from harm, even when that harm comes from within. Linda taught me what I didn't want in my life.
She taught me that kindness without boundaries is weakness, and that some people will take everything you give and still demand more. But more importantly, she taught me that I'm strong enough to say no, to stand firm, and to fight for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs me, even when people call me cruel. My father is happy now, genuinely happy, in a way he hasn't been since before my mother died. He's dating again, slowly, carefully, with much better judgment. He's in therapy, he's financially stable, he's free. And me? I'm still in my house, living my life on my own terms, with boundaries firmly in place and zero regret about how I handled the situation. I gave Linda exactly what she deserved for Mother's Day, the truth delivered with perfect, calculated precision. Some gifts are meant to be treasured, others are meant to teach lessons. Mine did both, just not in the way Linda expected. And honestly, that makes it the most perfect Mother's Day gift I could have given, not to her, but to my father and myself. The gift of freedom from manipulation, lies, and toxic people who hide behind the word family while destroying it from within. That's a gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for sticking with me through this entire journey. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever dealt with family members who tried to manipulate you financially, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and whether you think I did the right thing. I see so many of you amazing viewers tuning in from the United States, the Philippines, Canada, and especially New York. You guys show up for every single story, and it means the world to me. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps others who are going through similar situations realize they're not alone. So comment below. Where are you watching from? Have you ever had to set hard boundaries with family? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me to keep sharing mine. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and let's build a community where we support each other in standing up against manipulation, no matter where it comes from. See you in the next one.